get raid ready. There are a lot of people out there that really want to raid, but nobody wants to raid with because they aren't raid ready. The first step to being raid ready is gear. The best player in the world can't do much unless they have at least decent gear. Do some Hour of Twilight heroics to make sure you have the best gear you can get out of them, and then use your justice points to buy gear at the vendors. Focus on getting at least 2 pieces of set bonus Firelands gear, as set bonuses really give you a good boost. And do LFR as soon as you can, making sure to do every boss once a week. The gear you get from LFR is more than good enough for raiding normal content, and is fine for some heroic bosses too. Be fully enchanted with the best enchants you can get your hands on. Enchants may not seem to make a difference, but they make a massive difference. They aren't very expensive, and if you really are that short on gold, I have some grinding videos to show you how to make a quick couple of thousand gold. You can also farm the mats for enchants while you gear up, and then pay an enchanter 25 gold or so to use the mats and enchant your gear. If you go to a fellow guild member, they will often do it for free. But don't pester them, they also have a game to play. Get gemmed. If you are truly short on gold, there is really no need to put epic gems in gear. Once you start getting 397 best in slot gear though, you'll be expected to gem it with epics. But in order to get that gear, you will get epic gems anyway. Just make sure that you get the correct ones. If you're unsure what gems to get, hit the subscribe button, as I will do a video on what gems to get very soon. And be perfectly reforged. Reforging lets you get rid of secondary stats that don't really do you much good, and then get ones that do. Reforging is also rather cheap and can improve your output significantly. Have the correct talent spec. Get a cookie cutter spec off the internet and make sure it is perfect for your role, that it is up to date and effective. On that note, also make sure to have the best glyphs. If you want to raid with a very high-end raid team, get a variety of different glyphs and use dust to swap glyphs in and out for specific fights to give yourself even more of an edge. Make sure you know how to play your spec. Practice, practice, practice. It's the name of the game, and don't just practice, but find out what rotation you should be using as a DPS or tank, what spells to use when as a healer, tips, tricks specific to your spec, as well as when to use cooldowns, both defensive and offensive. Have the right gear with the right stats. If you show up for a raid and people see that you have gear that isn't good for you, such as intellect for a plate DPS, people will not be impressed, and you will most likely not get a spot. Buy potions, flasks, and food for your spec and off spec. Heck, if you have a ton of gold, grab some for other classes and hand them out in the raid for free. Most guilds provide flasks and food, either by all contributing to it, or having 1 or 2 people who do all the flasks and food for everyone. You should never have to depend on other people for your flasks and food. Always have a backup plan, and by giving these people mats, food, and flasks, you show you are a team player and that you want to help the group and not just yourself. If you are a DPS, buy DPS potions, strength potions, agility potions, intellect potions, mana potions for healers, and defensive potions and DPS potions for tanks. Get raiding add-ons and use them. Add-ons such as DBM and Bigwigs provide timers for boss abilities, raid warnings, and tons of useful information that you need to be a successful raider. I have put the links to these add-ons in the description, and again, many thanks to the developer of these add-ons. Find out before the raid what add-ons your raid wants. They may want you to have some type of loot add-on, and then get it. Do not complain about it, just get it beforehand and make sure it's working. That way you won't waste valuable raid time, which will again put you in their good books. On the same time, find out if they have some kind of voice over IP service such as Vent, TeamSpeak, or Mumble, and again, make sure you have it fully operational before the raid. If you ask a guild member to help you sort it out and test that it's working, they will usually be helpful. Most guilds and raid teams are fine with you not being able to talk over these programs and ask only that you listen to them. If they insist that you should be able to talk and be heard, then get a decent microphone and configure a nice push-to-talk button. And again, test it. Starting a raid by killing people's ears with a badly configured microphone is a very, very bad idea. Test it out before the raid. Know the fight. You should always, always, always look up the tactics and strategy for every boss on the raid before the raid. Watch videos of tactics on YouTube. Read text-based sites like Icy Veins. Do everything you can to know every fight inside and out. Even if the team says, it's okay, you don't have to know tactics. Do it anyway. You don't even have to tell them that you did, but by knowing the fight, you don't screw up as much, and you make them think, hey, maybe this person isn't so bad after all. They may even bring you along for the next raid. Knowing fights ahead of time prevents you from looking like a total berk. For example, someone who comes along to an Alyss Resort fight, picks up 3 feathers, shoots up into the air, flies back down into an egg, gets imprinted by the bird, and then circles it while getting meleeed and then killed. Oh, how I wish I recorded that fight. Another tip with knowing the fights is to listen to what the raid leader tells you. If they say, I want you to do such and such, go and do it. If you are a new member, pointing out that they are wrong or that so-and-so could do it better is a terrible idea. There are many reasons for this. 1. You are new, so they don't really care what you think and expect you to just shut up and do as you're told. 2. They may have some good reason behind it that you just don't know. 3. It may be a test to see whether you are up to the task. 4. They may just be wrong. But even if they are, as a new group member, you should probably just shush if you want to stay in their good books. Know how their loot system works and never complain. If they say, for example, that core team will get a piece above you, just reply with, okay, fair enough, and then working at getting into that core team. Usually, to get into the core team, all you have to do is know tactics, play your class well, and always be on time for raids. As a raid leader, I would rather have a good person who is always on time and is dependable than a great person who is only there half the time. Be on time. If possible, be online ahead of time. Tell people ahead of time that you want to be in the raid, and then show up ahead of time for it. Even if they say, we are full, or you aren't geared enough, if you are online and somebody else isn't, you could quite easily get a spot. Just make sure your gear is all ready, as I said earlier. Be positive or don't say anything. Nobody wants to raid with somebody who non-stop moans all the time. If you are continually wiping, either offer suggestions or be positive with something like, we'll get this guy next time. Even if there is no way you're going to take down the boss, your motivation will show that you are keen and help to motivate others to kill the sucker. Never, ever be negative. If the raid is called, say something like, thanks for the raid everyone, hope to raid with you again next time. If you don't understand, ask before the fight. If you need to know something, ask before the fight. At the same time, make sure to pay attention to what people say. For example, on Bethtalak in Firelands, asking who is going up is a good question. But if somebody just said or is in the process of saying blah blah, Trollface and you mad bro are going up, then asking right after they just told you shows you can't even pay attention, so they will not be impressed. If you genuinely didn't hear or understand after they explained, then say, I am sorry I didn't hear you, could you please say that again? Or, I am sorry I don't quite understand, could you explain again please? And then listen carefully to what they have to say. If you have never done a fight before, you should at least know the tactics for the fight. If you find the encounter difficult, focus on staying alive. So focus on doing the right thing first, rather than doing DPS, even healing and tanking. Though as a healer or a tank, you must pay attention to your role more, as if your threat generation isn't high enough, you kill other people. And as a healer, if your healing is too bad, then people die and other healers go oom. Even so, remember, rather stay alive than try to pump out as much as you can. A dead damage dealer does no damage, a dead tank generates no threat, and a dead healer does no healing, so stay alive. Not dying is one of the keys to being in a raid team's good books. While focusing on staying alive, do not neglect your other duties. The more you raid, the more you will be able to focus less on the fight and more on your duties. If they are asking for a volunteer for a particular duty on a particular boss and your class and spec can perform the task, volunteer to do it. Not only will the added challenge help you get better, but you will also again show that you are keen and that you aren't scared of a good challenge. If you aren't sure on what you need to do, ask. Use keybinds. Keybinds can take quite a while to get used to, but they will make you a better player, as your response time will be much lower and your raid awareness will be higher than a clicker. A clicker is somebody who clicks each and every skill. Your keybinds don't have to be perfect, they just have to be functional. Don't keybind right before a raid because you won't have time to get properly used to them and you will only look like a fool. Set up keybinds well in advance and then non-stop use them. Play on raid dummies if you need to, or use battlegrounds to practice, and only allow yourself to use keybinds. It doesn't matter what happens, you must not use the mouse to click your skills. It is the only way to undo the bad habit and learn the good one. The reason I say battlegrounds and not dungeons or raids is because in a battleground the teams are larger and there is a lot less pressure. If you're in a dungeon there are only 5 people, and if you can't heal, tank or DPS properly, the average pug group is going to struggle. Battlegrounds have less pressure because while you always get those few people who insist that you can't have fun or learn in battlegrounds, the general battlegrounding population just does them for fun. And you can always ignore people if they want to moan at you. When you are ready, transition into dungeons and keep using those keybinds. Eventually, you'll be so comfortable with them that you won't even notice. Be the first person to the instance portal, and when everyone is ready, summon them. If you are looking to join a new raid team, don't be one of the people waiting for a summon. Be one of the people doing the summoning. This means finding out where the raids are ahead of time. You do not want to ask people in the raid where the portal is, or it kind of defeats the objective of showing them that you know what you're doing. If somebody says, you need to do more DPS, or you should be doing more healing, don't say, I need better gear. Instead say, I will do my best. If you say it over voice chat, make sure that you sound genuine. Again, as a raid leader, I would be fine with taking somebody who isn't that great, provided of course we're able to carry them a little bit, as long as they are willing to improve, have a great attitude, and then actually improve. Having a great attitude means not being mean to other people. Rather be helpful, open to suggestions from other players, and keen. If you want to raid and raid well, you should develop a passion for raiding. You should desperately want to raid and use that passion to fuel a desire to get better and do what the team needs you to do. Do not be arrogant, do not be an elitist, and do not mistake arrogance and elitism for skill. There are players out there that would make the rest of us playing this game look like a bunch of unskilled 2-year-olds by comparison. And you know what? They don't have to be elitist about it, and they don't have to be arrogant about it. Many of them, in fact, are not. In fact, we can even have some examples. Cartoons, for example, is a very high-ranked frost mage that does PvP at a level that would put me to absolute shame. And as far as I know, he is not elitist, nor is he arrogant. And another example from PvP is Swifty, a very high-ranked warrior who again is not elitist, nor arrogant. An example from another game, like StarCraft, is Whiteraw, who is an exceptional StarCraft player and is actually renowned for being extremely polite. He is in fact so good that despite being one of the oldest competing players in the game, he still comes in and owns it up. What I'm saying is that being good does not mean being a jerk that brings other players down. You will earn more respect from your fellow players by being somebody who actually helps others and tries to make the community a better place. An added reason to not be horrible is that most guilds have a reputation to uphold, and your guildies will not like you for giving them a bad rep. Have a spare keyboard and mouse. If you don't have some, then get some. They do not have to be top-notch, just something that you can use if your equipment goes on the fritz. Telling your raid, look, I can't raid because my keyboard or mouse isn't working. You will either piss them off or make them laugh. Possibly a combination of the two. If you are planning to get a new mouse and keyboard, then as long as the old ones still work, rather than throwing them away, just keep them stashed away somewhere you can easily find them, and then get them for when your keyboard refuses to work or your mouse starts swearing at you. Make sure your UI or user interface is clean and easily usable, so you can see useful information while not getting spammed with needless info. The default Blizzard UI works fine, but at a certain point you will most likely want to customize it further. I will do a video about this in more detail. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe to be notified of new videos by clicking the button on the video. Good luck and have fun.